Inside the last 20 minutes of the SportsMax Zone for this Monday, the West Indies will be looking to bounce back from Saturday's 6-wicket loss to England when they take on South Africa on Tuesday in their second match at the ICC T20 World Cup in Dubai. The West Indies were bowled out for 55 in Saturday's opener, their second lowest score in T20 internationals and third lowest of all time. England then cruised to victory in 8.2 overs. Here's Ricardo Chambers ahead of Tuesday's contest.
Swatted away, leg side, splits the fielders, and that'll do nicely for England. A convincing win, a fist pump from Joss Buttler, captain and vice-captain, hug in the middle, clinical with the ball, and just go into Super 12 with a win, perfect against the West Indies.
We can't hide behind the fact that we didn't bat well. It doesn't matter who played. As a batting unit, we didn't do well enough. We didn't do ourselves justice. And to start with, if you're going to get bowled out in 14-point-odd overs in a T20 game, it just tells you that we didn't bat well enough. You know, but we've got to bounce back. We've got to work hard to get that right, and that's going to be very important for us. You know, we've got to make sure that whoever walks on that park is ready to is prepared well enough to go and execute the skills and have enough confidence in their own ability to do what is needed.
What is needed will be a win against South Africa on Tuesday, a point that's not lost on head coach Phil Simmons. But the way the Windies batting capitulated against England must be of concern, most of the batsmen being dismissed to ultra-aggressive shots. So, should we expect a change of approach against the South Africans?
It is catch it, this is Kyron Pollard.
The style in which we play cricket has always been the style in which we play cricket, but we've also got to assess the situation at the time and play according to the situation. So there's enough experience in the team so that any two batsmen there at the same time would have that experience to assess that situation and play accordingly. So we will continue to be in our aggressive state, but our shot selection, our assessment of the situation must be a lot better.
Like West Indies, South Africa lost their opener, going down by 5 wickets to Australia, so they too will be going all out to record a first win of the tournament. The match is set to start at 5 a.m. in Jamaica, 6 a.m. in the Eastern Caribbean.
Diving to his left, quite brilliant.
Yeah, so let's welcome international cricket commentator and SportsMax analyst Fazeer Mohammed to talk about, well, what happened on the weekend and what is likely to happen on Tuesday as well. Faz, we know you've said over and over how inconsistent the West Indies team is, so I guess in a manner of speaking, what happened on Saturday may not have been shocking to you.
Shocking in the sense of the capitulation, but not entirely surprising, because it was interesting the comment made about so many of the players actually getting out to attacking shots. Well, all but one got out to attacking shots, and that was Andre Russell, who misread a googly, was bowled playing a defensive shot. Everyone else, and it's T20 cricket, so you would expect probably in the early going, fielders are in the first 6 overs, you're looking to go over the top. To be judicious about it. And I take Phil Simmons' point that you have to play your game, play the way you play the game, the way you've been successful. But you also pointed out quite correctly, you've got to respond to the situation. You can't go continuing to swing for the hills when 4, 5, 6, 7 wickets are down. The last man was Ravi Rampal, swinging for the hills with 6 overs to go. It just seemed to reflect a mindset that suggested that, well, it's either over the top or nothing. We had 43 dot balls in the first 10 overs. And again, you could argue, okay, so many wickets were going down, so they needed to defend and whatever. But they still got out playing attacking shots. So it was contradiction after contradiction. And yes, we know their experience. We know they've done it before. But at this point, they haven't done it. They didn't do it in the warm-ups. They were even worse in the match a couple of days ago. And see what happens now against South Africa.
Yeah, well, the captain said what he needed to say at the end of the match, Faz, because the fact is history is what the match is. They have to look forward to the South Africa assignment, which was just coming up a few days later. So from that standpoint, we've seen where Mohamed Nabi troubled them in the warm-up match against Afghanistan. Adil Rashid with 4 wickets for 2 runs. The spinners troubling them there again. Tabraiz Shamsi. He's the current world #1 bowler in T20 cricket, and he's a spinner as well. How will they cope with him on Tuesday?
Well, based on what we saw in Grenada just a few months ago, Lance, not particularly well, because he was the man of the series there. He went at under 4 runs per over, which is outstanding, but it also reflected the West Indies' struggles in those conditions. And yes, Karen Pollard said, look, I mean, what can you do after a performance like that? You put it in the bin, which is fine. But if that bin keeps reopening and more of the garbage comes out, then what is really going on? So yes, I understand the point about not belaboring and haunting yourself with that. But if you keep making the same mistakes, how many times have the media asked Karen Pollard the question about dot balls to the point where he gets tired of it? But it's like saying, well, you know, in yesterday's football game, you had so many errant passes, and you say, well, how many times are you going to bring that up? Well, you bring it up because it's happening every time. So if you've got a situation where players are not capitalizing on available resources, that is balls bowled to you, and you're saying, well, okay, we are big hitters, this is our strong point, but you're still losing, and you're not correcting that issue, what are we as presumably trying to be impartial observers supposed to say about that?
Yeah, and Faz, while we are on the discussion about the captain, Karen Pollard, in that same press conference where he said those things, he actually said don't expect wholesale changes in the West Indies team because of the manner in which they were demolished. And I felt as if that stood out to me in particular. One, because, you know, there is a lot of murmuring as to Roston Chase. Where do you stand on that comment as well as the inclusion of Roston Chase?
Well, actually, I agree with him on that, because wholesale changes is a sign of panic. It basically means you're guessing. You don't know what you're doing. And clearly, the West Indies have put their store in the squad, in these players, and they've got to live or die with it. They've got 4 options. Yes, Roston Chase would have been surprising that he didn't make it into the final 11 after getting a half century. But let's see what happens tomorrow. Will they say, well, okay, Leonard Simmons has to go, or Chris Gayle has to go, or somebody else to go to bring some sort of stability to the middle order if wickets are tumbling all over the place once again? You've got Andre Fletcher, you've got O'Shane Thomas, you've got Hayden Walsh as a spinning option. Will they all be factors? I don't expect 4 changes, to cut a long story short, because really that doesn't make a lot of sense, because essentially everybody failed. Everybody had a bad match. So essentially, if you're talking about dropping players who didn't perform, all 11 should be dropped, which again doesn't make any sense. So you've got to be selective. You've got to be mindful. These are the players who I expect to deliver. They didn't, and they didn't really badly. Let's see if they really have that pride and that energy to lift the West Indies campaign in the very next match.
And speaking about energy and pride, we have to point out the fact that Akil Hussain from Trinidad and Tobago, when he got the opportunity, he grabbed it with both hands. And I'm actually talking about the manner in which after they were dismissed for 55, they came back out, they had to, take the ball. And for me, a team would be very dejected, and you would probably see it in their fielding and bowling. But we didn't get that from the West Indies. They came out and they showed fight with the ball.
They did, and credit to Akil Hussain for taking advantage of the opportunity, and he was really brilliant with that second catch. I don't know why there was this lengthy review, because it was clear he had his fingers under the ball, never mind what else happened. But also, there's a double-edged sword to it. Seeing the celebrations of the wickets reminds me of so many NFL games when a team is losing 47-5, and the team that has 5 points sacks the quarterback, and the linebacker goes, muscles and everything, and pointing to the crowd and whatever. And then somebody points on the shoulder and points the scoreboard to him and brings him home to reality. It's good to celebrate. Nothing is wrong with that. He's a young man. He has every reason to celebrate. But let's put it in context. Would England have lost 4 wickets if they were chasing more than 55?
Faz, always great talking to you here on the SportsMax Zone, and we'll be up early in the morning to see what the West Indies will offer to South Africa as they try to recover and put themselves back on track for their title defence. Thanks, Faz.
It's really up to them. Thanks very much. No problem at all.
Break time. Back with more on the Zone after this.